Vintage postcards are a fun and inexpensive collectible. You can derive hours of pleasure on the hunt or just thumbing through your own collection. Every year, the Old Dominion Postcard Club has a show where collectors can swap, sell, and buy those little cards that say, "Wish you were here."
When you buy postcards, you go to a show like this, it's not only fun to buy them and take them home and own them, but you can spend a whole day looking for them.
That's about as fast as you can go. You're spending about a fraction of a second looking at each card.
I think that we're all just have a collector gene.
I collect just movie stars and just certain movie stars.
The Halloween cards.
Chesapeake Bay postcards.
Military bikes.
People on the phone, naked ladies' backsides.
I do Times Square and I do Switzerland. And I think that's the neat thing about postcards. It is to any one person what they want it to be.
People are curious about postcards, and I think it's kind of a warm, fuzzy spot for most people. It is a time capsule.
They seem to be somewhat recession-proof because they're basically inexpensive.
I'm just a nostalgia buff, and so a lot of the stuff that I look for, places I've been during my childhood, old motels. So today I found 2 of Skyline Drive that I've been looking for a long time. So I feel like I've had a good day, you know. So
It's like 285 cards. You gotta love it. I've written 10 books on postcards at this point. People are interested in their nostalgia, the history of where they grew up, where they came from, where they spent their summers. Well, I grew up in Annapolis, and as a child I lived on the Severn River, and I fished and I crabbed and I taught sailing. I moved out of the area, not far. I was in love with flea markets, and I just found all these postcards and they took me back. So I just started collecting the Chesapeake Bay, and then it just grew from there.
It's fun just to meet with the people. But they're really the best decades are 30s and 40s. Yeah. There's just thousands of different cards of movie stars from the 20s, 30s, 40s, and some of them are fairly obscure movie stars. Have you heard of Ruth Chatterton? She was a big star of the 30s. She was actually the actress that Betty Davis said she admired the most. That's Rosalind Russell, did some romantic comedies. Norma Shearer was a big star at the end of the silent era in the late 20s. In 39, made the mistake of turning down the role of Scarlett O'Hara in Gone with the Wind. So is Lionel Barrymore, who was best known for playing mean old Mr. Potter in It's a Wonderful Life. And the descendant, of course, is Drew Barrymore.
Oh, kids love it.
Kids love Halloween.
They do. It's just an old romantic holiday that was fun, that came over with the Irish immigrants, and, you know, it was more or less like the end of the harvest. It was really a very innocent time, and it's a shame people want to make it something other than what it was, like the bobbing for apples and, you know, the peeling of the apple skin and throwing it over your shoulder, and whatever letter it looked like, that would be the first name of your husband. So if it was an S, his name would probably be Sam or Simon or something cute.
Postcards were super popular 1907, 1910, and they were new, and they were coming from Germany, and they were beautiful, and there were, you know, I don't know the numbers, but there were lots of them, and so they were accessible, and it was cool to use postcards, and now it's cool to text. But these are pretty to look at. These are visually appealing, and everyone, I mean, people that are walking by that aren't our club members are still curious about what are these and what's going on in there. Well, I actually started out with collecting people on the phones, and I'm not sure how or why, and then that begat somehow women, and so I have Naked Ladies' Backsides, and I use the word back in the title. This year's is Flashbacks.
I started out when I was a little kid, and postcards are a penny a piece. And I swap with people in the mail, and postcards just enable you to see so much and learn so much. It's a cheap way to travel. But you also learn a lot of history. I'm interested in history.
It fascinates me that such a simple machine could be useful in warfare. The Japanese took 3 divisions mounted on bicycles and they rolled in 70 days down the Malaysian Peninsula and gave the Brits the biggest defeat militarily that they had ever endured. The military advantage was in the transportation. My best butt chewing in the whole Army 23 years was when I rode in Vietnam from our little base to a little town of Mito to get a present for one of my kids. And I came back and the colonel said, "Where have you been?" I said, "I went down there." "On that?" I borrowed a bike. I said, "Yeah." "That's a dumb fool thing." And of course I got the last word, "Yes, sir." But it struck me as kind of foolhardy to get into a Jeep marked with a big American star and go roaring down the one paved road, because enough people had died on that road because they did that. Wow. There it is. I want to thank you for pulling that out.
Yes, sir.
It's over a year I've been looking for something like that.
Yeah, I know you have.
And that's better than what I was looking for.
Yeah. Now you'll remember me when you display that, won't you?
I will put a brass plaque on there, you betcha.
All right. That's
It shows a bicycle and a 4th of July parade with the American flag. This happens to be in France. 4th year of the war for France and the 1st year of the war that we were getting into it. July 4th, 1918. And is that ever neat? The downside of collecting specialty cards is the more you get, the harder it is to find one that you don't have. And when it's a narrow niche, the rewards come infrequently. But you find them often enough that you keep looking. It's the elusive shell that you're looking for as you go down the beach, yet another mile. You know.
You can find out more about the Old Dominion Postcard Club by visiting their website, olddominionpcc.com.
My aunt and uncle used to live in St. Louis, and they lived right by the arch. She's now in her 90s down in Florida, but I'll send her this card. I'm quite a user of the U.S. mail, and so I come across cards that I match up with friends where they were born or grew up, and I'm not looking any for specialty cards, you know. So it's very serendipity what I come across. It's a great way to connect.
You can now watch Virginia Currents anytime on the web at ideastations.org/currents on demand.